Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about Grime 2, and let me be upfront with you. This one took me a minute to fully wrap my head around, not because it's confusing, but it's really weird. Intentionally, aggressively, unapologetically weird. And once you stop fighting that weirdness and just lean into it, that's when Grime 2 starts to really click. This is a Metroidvania from developers Clovervight, a follow-up to the 2021 original that built up a cult following. And if you never played the first game, don't worry about it. I'll cover exactly what you need to know. The big in question is, does Grime 2 earn its place in a genre that's absolutely packed right now? Because let me tell you, the Metroidvania market is flooded. There's new releases dropping left and right, and most of them are pretty fine, but Grime 2 is doing something different enough that I think deserves your attention. So let's get into it. This is my full review of Grime 2. The world and the vibe. Right off the bat, Grime 2 establishes identity in about 30 seconds into the game. You're not dropped into the slick fantasy kingdom or a neon sci-fi dystopia. You're born literally. You emerge as an egg, conscious and slowly blink into life as a narrator called the Ripper of Waves, which the game describes as something like a creator deity. It asks you a series of questions, you answer them, you're flung through what I can only describe as a cosmic birth canal, and then you're spat out into a pool of primordial ooze in a world that looks like H.R. Geiger designed a Silent Hill map. Body parts on the wall, flesh textures everywhere, ambient sound designs that'll make you say ugh at least once. I'm not being dramatic, the soundscape in this game is one of the most effective tools. It sounds gross in the best possible ways. The squelching, the ambience, the way certain enemies make this disturbed gargling sounds, it all contributes to this oppressive alien atmosphere that very few games manage to pull off consistently. Hollow Knight has this depressed, melancholy sounds. Blasphemous has this gothic brutality. Grime 2 has this visceral, organic unease that I can't really fathom in any other genre. The visual direction backs all of this up. The art style is somewhere between industrial and biological. I want to say Dia H.R. Geiger, like if you took that iconic xenomorph artist and turned the weirdness down just enough to keep it digestible. Zones feel genuinely distinct from one another. You move through different environments and they each have their own texture, their own color palette, their own sense of what kind of horror mystery lives there. The creature design especially, there's some genuinely unsettling characters that you'll encounter that stick with you. A few low-res textures pop in here and there, and some minor visual hiccups showed up during my playthrough, but for the indie title, this is pretty polished in presentation overall. The art direction carries everything. The story, the cryptid, the weird, and occasionally funny. So, okay, I need to be honest about the story. If you're someone who needs narrative clarity to stay invested, Grime 2 might test your patience. The lore is dense, deliberately cryptic, and doesn't really hold your hand at all. You're playing as a formless, which is basically a fancy in-universe word for mimic, and their stories unfold through environmental storytelling, NPC conversations, and choices you make along the way. And the choices matter, by the way. Different answers you give early in the game, different dialogue decisions with characters you meet, these seem to influence your understanding of what's going on and possibly outcomes, though exactly how deep that goes is hard to pin down in the first playthrough. The core of the narrative seems to be about identity. Why were you created? What does it mean to be conscious in this world? Why do you feel this particular hunger? The game is interesting in this big existential questions, and it asks them in the most poetic ways that works well sometimes and then kind of bounces off of you other times. Personally, I had a few moments where I genuinely had no idea what was going on narratively, and that might be part of the design. It occasionally pulled me out of the experience. But what does land though is the humor. There are moments in this game, interactions with certain characters, specific dialogue choices where Grime 2 just decides to be funny, and it works really good. It breaks the oppressive tone in a way that feels intentional rather than jarring. It reminded me how Disco Elysium would shift from existential dread to absurdity, except Grime 2 is doing it much more subtly. Those moments of longevity actually made me like the world more. So the story isn't the strongest point of the game, but it's interesting enough to be pulling you forward, and the world itself more than compensates for the narrative ambiguity. Gameplay system, this is where it gets good. So let's talk about what you're actually doing for 20 plus hours in this game, because Grime 2 has a lot going on mechanically and most of it is generally well designed. First, the accessibility options. I want to spend a second here because it matters. Grime 2 gives you two main play modes from the jump: standard, which is the developer's intended experience, and story mode, which lowers the difficulty and lets you tweak damage numbers even further. Now, I know some people hear easy mode and roll their eyes, but as someone who loves Metroidvanias but is not as always in the mood to get absolutely wrecked by difficulty spikes, this is generally appreciated option. It means that more people get to experience what Grime 2 is doing without bouncing off the wall of frustration, and I think that's a good thing for the game. Now on standard, this is a challenging game. Bosses are aggressive, enemies are dangerous, and traps will punish you. It feels fair, but it doesn't hold back at all. Combat is a mechanical heart of Grime 2. It has the thing that makes it stand apart from most competition. On the surface, it looks like a standard action Metroidvania. You have weapons, you swing them at things, and then things die. But there's layers here. For one, defeating enemies builds up a resource called breath, accumulating enough of it and you can use it to heal. But the healing animation is slow enough that you'll have to be careful about when you have to pop it. You can't just panic and hit meal combo. It forces you to read the room, and later in the game you unlock something called Breath Crown, and it adds even more depth to how you manage the resources. Good progression curve on the mechanic. There's the parrying, and I want to be real here, I usually hate parrying in games. I'm personally bad at it. It's a skill gap that turns a lot of games into a frustration feast for me. But Grime 2 parrying window felt generous enough that I was actually using it consistently by mid-game. Not perfect, but enough that it felt rewarding rather than punishing. If you're a parrying god, you'll love this. If you're a parrying coward like me, it's accessible. Weapons are varied: axes, broadswords, throwing knives for ranged playstyles, and they each have their own weight and feel. Armor and equipment also changes your character's appearance, which is a small thing, but it makes the customization feel more tactical. You can upgrade your arsenal through purchase by visiting a blacksmith or by leveling a system that lets you build towards strength, dexterity, and a more balanced hybrid approach. One thing to note here is your build does affect your weapon effectiveness, so pay attention to what you're investing in. It's not a system that punishes you for experimenting, but it does reward intentionality. Now the modes. This is the thing that makes Grime 2 combat generally its own. As you defeat enemies, you absorb their abilities as modes. These get equipped to the D-pad, and you can activate them in combat to use your enemy's own powers against them. In all the combinations you can set up, mode ability into a weapon charge into a parried cancel, it gets deep. I was nowhere near mastering it, but I can see the ceiling, and the ceiling is high. For a player who wants to optimize and experiment, Grime 2 gives you a generally rich combat sandbox to play in. Of course, none of this matters if the world isn't worth exploring, and thankfully Grime 2 gets it right. The map is vast, it's full of secrets, dead ends that become pathways once you get new abilities, and areas that reward curiosity. Fast travel points are scattered throughout, and they help manage the backtracking that comes with the genre. I can't pretend that the backtracking disappears completely. It's there, and sometimes it can feel like it's a bit much, but Grime 2 generally keeps it from becoming tedious by making the environments interesting enough that retracing your steps doesn't feel like a chore. Platforming is a highlight. It feels snappy and responsive, generally a step above what a lot of Metroidvanias delivered. As you unlock new abilities, a grappling hook, a wall jump, the traversal options open up in satisfying ways, and revisiting older areas with these new tools is one of the most rewarding loops in the game. Finding a path you couldn't take before, or finally reaching that collectible that was taunting you from the platform you couldn't reach, the good Metroidvania design. Grime 2 does it excellently. The map itself is functional but unremarkable. It tells you what you need to know without giving you much more than that. Seasoned genre fans will find it fine, but if you tend to get lost easily, be prepared to do some exploring without a ton of guidance. On PC, Grime 2 ran beautifully. On a 4070 at 4K, I had zero significant frame drops, so no crashes, only a couple of minor visible oddities that didn't affect the gameplay. It's a well-optimized experience on a high-end hardware. Steam Deck is a different story. I tested across multiple settings, and I couldn't consistently get above 40 FPS even with efforts off. It's playable if you're willing to mess with the settings and can live without locked 60 frames, but it's not the ideal platform at launch. This could absolutely be improved with later patches, and I give it some time before committing to a Steam Deck playthrough if that was your plan. The soundtrack. I'd be doing this game a disservice if I didn't significantly shout out the music. It creates this interesting contrast. You're walking through a world of body horror, and this music momentarily sounds like it's almost hopeful. It enhances the atmosphere in ways that visuals can't do it alone. If this one gets a vinyl release, I'd consider it. Final verdict. So here's where I land on Grime 2. It's not a perfect game. The story could be clearer without losing its identity. The backtracking accumulates, and if you need a tight, cohesive narrative to stay invested, this might not scratch the itch. But what Grime 2 does well, and it really does well, the combat system is deep and rewarding and generally original, especially with the mode mechanic. The world is atmospheric and the visual striking in ways that sticks with you. The platforming is tight, the accessibility options means that most anyone can experience the whole thing, and beneath all the deliberate weirdness, the game is clearly made with the real craft and intention. In a Metroidvania market that's absolutely overflowing right now, Grime 2 earns a near spot at the top. It's not going to be for everyone. The cryptic storytelling and the organic horror aesthetic are going to be bouncing off certain players, but if you're a fan of the genre and you want something doing something different, generally different, this is worth your time. Grime 2 gets a solid recommendation from me. It's a game that trusts you to engage with it on your own terms, and if you're willing to do that, it does pay off. But as always, if you want more coverage like this, deeper dives, live reactions, first impressions on new drops, come hang out with me at Andre the Alpha over on Twitch. Link is down below, and the community is always live. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, stay weird, and stay alpha. I'll catch you in the next one.